There's nothing sparkling. You see what I'm saying?
What's that? Who is that?
Actually today, that in a 30-minute span there were something like 7,000 men killed. And I believe that battle was, if I'm not mistaken, Cold Harbor in Virginia. This is your hometown. I know that you grew up in Virginia, and there's a lot of history that I'm absolutely sure you're familiar with, but you also formed something, I believe it's called V.A.S.P.E.R. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
No, it's V.A.S.P.E.R. It's the Virginia Society of Paranormal Education and Research.
You guys actually have over 150 members who currently do investigations. And I know primarily in that area, I was looking at some of what you have done, including the clip that we're about to show. And this clip is, I believe, titled Cold Harbor. Now, this was actually created by Beth.
Cold Harbor. It was once a welcome stop for weary travelers. But in the summer of 1864, it became a hell on earth for the tired and hungry soldiers who fought there for 9 long days. When the ceasefire was issued, nearly 20,000 men lay dead in the fields. Cold Harbor is tucked away in rural Hanover County, Virginia, about 8 miles east of Richmond. Soon after the first small neighborhood was established near the battlefield in the late 1950s, reports of supernatural happenings at the site became a common occurrence. Phantom gunfire, apparitions, and even shadow people keep area residents on their guard. The most provocative paranormal tale of Cold Harbor concerns a thick, bluish fog that's said to roll onto the main battlefield every night at 1 a.m., regardless of the weather. The regularity of the reports at the battlefield captured my curiosity, and the only way for me to put that curiosity at ease was to investigate, to get a look for myself. My team and I met with the National Park Service and arranged a visit to the battlefield at night. Our adventure began at 10 p.m. A park ranger escorted us through the woods, and they were so dark you couldn't see the person next to you on the trail without the aid of a flashlight or night vision goggles. There were a total of 10 of us, and with the ranger in the lead, I took up a position at the rear to make sure no one was separated from the group. We wound through the Confederate trenches, noting every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig. It was just after we crossed a small stream that runs through the heart of the Confederate position that we noticed the sound of someone following us on the trail. A distinct crunch, crunch, crunch. Someone heavy and on 2 legs. My first thought was that it was the Park Service having a little fun at our expense, but after checking our surroundings with the night cams and finding nothing, not even a deer or a possum, my suspicion shifted. All of the group's photos so far had been normal shots of trees and underbrush. Things began to change quickly after we crossed that stream. Bright orbs, some of the brightest I've ever seen, began appearing in our photos. There were only a few at first, but the closer we came to the area of the battlefield where the heaviest casualties occurred, there were hundreds. I must admit that before that night at Cold Harbor, I was never really a believer that orbs were anything other than dirt. But the timing of their arrival in our photos and the disappearing when we moved on to the Union trenches was too much of a coincidence for me to write off. A portion of the trail through the Union lines overlaps a park road for a stretch of about a quarter mile. We'd only been on the pavement for maybe 50 yards or so when an icy cold breeze snaked out of the woods at our side. The change in temperature and the strange, gloomy mood that seemed to accompany it were so dramatic that the group stopped in its tracks to make notes and to record the phenomenon. Another team member, Ron Decker, and I decided to record some audio data in hopes of later finding EVP. After only a few minutes, Ron and I both experienced a strange, sharp pain in our sides. I asked someone quickly to snap a photo of us, and this is what they captured. The pain was fleeting, thankfully, and the chill vanished soon after. Our journey continued. We marched on through the Union lines, turned back, and crossed the main battlefield once again. As we approached the Confederate front line, our escort ranger jokingly asked if anyone knew the password needed for the guard. He pointed out the site where the sentry would have been stationed, and we snapped these photos. The trail had taken us full circle. We hiked up the park road that led back to our cars, but were stopped again by another sudden drop in temperature. We were making notes when the line of fog began rolling across the pavement. Only moments after we first saw it, we were completely engulfed. I was unable to see the person at arm's length from me. We watched the mist pour onto the battlefield, where it settled, and the road around us cleared. I looked down at my watch. 1 a.m. So, are the legends surrounding Cold Harbor merely that? Legends? Based on my experience there that September night, I have to say no. The footsteps, the photo anomalies, the shifts in temperature, the unexplained pains, and finally, the fog. Those were enough to sway my skepticism. Reports of suspected paranormal activity continue to flood in from neighbors of the battlefield and travelers on nearby Cold Harbor Road. I suspect they won't stop anytime soon.
Obviously, I couldn't cover 3-4 hours of investigating in just a 5-minute video, so what you got was the distilled version. That shot in the video of me standing with Ron, we had been feeling that pain for maybe a minute or two, thought it was psychosomatic. We tried to convince ourselves, oh, you know, that's not it. And we hear somebody in the group a few feet away go, what is that? That's when we asked to have the photo taken, and we were completely surprised to see anything around us. There were many other instances around the battlefield where we felt pain. Lots of people said they just felt a sudden exhaustion, couldn't go on. It was a chilly night, but not really cold. Lots of people complained of getting hot. No explanation for that I could find. I was out there the middle of the afternoon alone, talking to my audio recorder. You'll hear in the clip me ask a question. You don't hear a voice reply, but you do hear gunfire from somewhere. I'm no artillery specialist, but it sounds a lot heftier than most of the shotguns we hear around here in bird season, and it was no hunting season that day. Anybody still tied to this place?
Is that odd?
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like as a cannon.
Yeah, it's like a disembodied sound.
Yeah. Sounds like something you'd hear.
Right.
And see, like, I understand what she's saying, how other people listen to it, find other different things inside of it. But I'm distinctly... Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Alright. I'm distinctly hearing yelling.
Yeah.
And that last gunshot.
This was a battlefield maybe 10 miles away from Cold Harbor called Malvern Hill. This was set up at the site of a Methodist parsonage ruin. I was not around while this was recording. I was maybe a mile away. What I picked up when I came home was metal clanking, tapping, that goes on for about 3 minutes pretty rhythmically. No set pattern that I can tell. And in the background for about 15 or 20 seconds, there are several shouts that I'll let you interpret them the way you want. I didn't know what to think of the clanking at the time, and I found out just recently from the Park Service that the parsonage was not occupied by the clergy during the battle, but a blacksmith had set up shop there for 2 years.
Folks, we got to end the show. We got 4 seconds. Thank you for being here. Beth, you rock.